Moving to the Pacific theater, the first player that we should consider is Japan, and the Japanese will have 30 IPCs to spend, whereas in the second edition they only had 25 IPCs. And these additional 5 IPCs are spread throughout the Pacific Islands, territories such as Borneo and the East Indies have had increased values. Much will depend, as far as your turn 1 strategy goes, on what the other players have done up until this point. But you should probably go ahead and purchase 2 tech rolls and 2 transports. And the 2 tech rolls are going to be for heavy bombers. Heavy bombers is such a dominant strategy in this game because, again, they're 1/6 as hard to attain, and they're still 2/3 as good as they formerly were. And they're just completely devastating in any sort of battle. In the Asian back and forth conflicts, you're going to have lots of battles that involve planes, and so you want to maximize the number of planes that you have engaging in a lot of these small battles to minimize your casualties and maximize your first round kills. Heavy bombers allows you to do that. It will also allow you the flexibility to swing back and forth and attack the Russians one turn, the U.S. another turn, or even India on one turn, and give you the flexibility to strategic bomb into Russia, Caucasus, or any factory such as India should any of the allies build on Asia itself. So you've made those purchases. The 2 transports, I recommend the 2 transports as opposed to the bomber that you could have purchased with that money, simply because Japan has a lot of infantry assets that are just sitting out there that need to be picked up. And while in future rounds you should focus on building lots of heavy bombers and a few infantry to maximize your transport's efficiency, the initial 2 transports that you start the game with are likely going to be reduced to 1 if the British destroyer destroys the one off of Kwangtung. And with so many infantry, the tank, the artillery, just scattered throughout all of your islands, you need to be able to have transports to pull in these already built assets and bring them into the mainland and to complement the heavy bomber strategy. Now, if Russia has defended Buryatia, I recommend, instead of going after Pearl Harbor 2, to use your battleship and dump as much as you can in Buryatia and focus there with your planes, because your first priority is to pressure Russia, and you want to destroy as many Russian units as you can. And so if Russia gives you that opportunity, by all means, follow through. Other than that, let's assume that this is how the map looks at the beginning of Japan's first turn. Let's go ahead and lay out Japan's combat moves. I'd recommend sending 1 infantry into Buryatia, 3 infantry into China, along with 1, 2, 3 fighters, and this infantry is still there. I'll leave it there for clarity's sake. Recommend recreating Pearl Harbor by bringing in your bomber, the battleship from Japan, this carrier, this destroyer. Though this carrier's plane should go there and attack the sub. This sub should come up and attack Pearl Harbor, and both of these planes can fly 1, 2, 3 and make it into Pearl Harbor as well. This battleship and this carrier can move 1, 2 and attack off Kwangtung to counterattack against that destroyer. And those are all of the combat moves that I recommend Japan making if this is the setup that they're going to start the game with. So let's go ahead and resolve those battles. Here, first let's do the calculation of how many die points we have to determine how many kills we should expect to achieve. The bomber contributes 4, the battleship 4, we're up to 8. Another 6 gives us 14. Another 3 gives us 17. 18, 19 with the sub, and 20 with the carrier. Now note that you may not have the sub, but the sub was destroyed by the UK on the UK's turn in the Solomon Islands. But that would still leave you with 18 die points. Either way, you should hopefully expect to kill all of the U.S. fleet. Now the U.S. fleet was defending with 2 for the sub, 4 for the fighter, and 3 for the carrier, which is 9, so that should kill 1.5 units. Your first hit you can take on your battleship and just turn it on its side. And then I would take your second hit, let's assume they got the second hit, on your sub. So that means you end your turn here in Hawaii with this fleet, because this plane is on the Hawaiian Islands and doesn't contribute. This bomber will have to move back at the end of our turn. In this combat here, you will get basically a 1-round shot at the British submarine, and you may or may not kill it after that 1 round. If you haven't killed it, the sub will submerge. Let's just assume that you're going to miss and that the sub submerges through the end of the round. Now this plane is gone 1, so it still has 3 movement points left. In Buryatia, your infantry just marched into there and you killed it. You took the territory without any actual fighting going on. In China, you have 3 infantry and you have 3 fighters. The 3 infantry contribute 3 die points. The 3 fighters contribute 9. That's a total of 12 die points, which should kill 2 units. The U.S. are defending with 4 for their 2 infantry, and then another 4 for their fighter. That's 8. That should kill 1 1/3 units. And then on the remaining turn, they should still have their fighter, which would kill 2/3 of a unit. So while the U.S. will lose all of their units, you will likely lose 2 infantry in that battle, but China will fall to you. So now it's the end of your turn, and you need to make your non-combat movements. Oh, and the destroyer here, I forgot about it. The destroyer will likely get hit, and even if it does hit on its response, you just take the hit on your battleship, turn it on its side at the end of the battle. The battleship gets righted. So there will likely be no Japanese losses in that battle. So for non-combat, I recommend moving this infantry to here, help strengthen that. All of these fighters can land here to deter the British from considering an aggressive move against French Indochina. If the submarine is still around with the UK, you want to be very cautious about leaving transports or any other vulnerable naval units here, along with the ones that you're building. So what I would recommend doing is moving this transport to here, and perhaps moving across, we'll say, an infantry and this tank. And so those can both land in Manchuria. This bomber that went 1, 2, 3 to Hawaii can go 4, 5, 6 and just land right back there. This fighter that just went 1 can go 2, 3, 4 and land on that carrier right there. And so that is essentially how you would end your non-combat. Then you would want to place your 2 purchased transports on the inside of Japan, and that would conclude the Japanese first turn.